Some special reports and intelligence show the Iran nuclear threat is imminent. Others suggest that's not the case. At this point, most foreign reporters believe Tehran does not have a bomb and is probably years away from having a deliverable nuclear warhead. Jonathan Manthorpe watches global events through the prism of 30 years' experience as a foreign correspondent in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, and it is my pleasure to welcome Jonathan Manthorpe back to Studio 4 to tell us more about a lot of things. The world is not stable yet.
Well, thank heavens, it means I have a job still.
I was thinking. And you've been writing a lot lately.
Yeah, always, yeah. But,
so today, Libya.
Well,
yesterday, China.
Yeah. Tomorrow, Iran probably, and the Iran situation is interesting because Obama has just had this 4 or 5 day conference in Seoul with the heads of about 50 states, and they sort of rather conveniently labeled it a conference on trying to curb nuclear terrorism, which everybody, of course, can agree with. But clearly what's been going on in the sidelines is much more important talks about what to do about Iran, what to do about North Korea. And so we've had today an interesting development. The Prime Minister of Turkey, Prime Minister Erdogan, who was at the conference, sort of surprisingly stopped in on Tehran on the way home.
Really?
And was met at the airport by the foreign minister, is having talks with President Ahmadinejad and the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and they've already announced that there are going to be some new talks over Iran's nuclear program, probably starting on April 13th and probably in Istanbul. So this is a bit of a breakthrough because there have been no talks between Iran and what is known as the P5+1, which is the 5 nuclear powers who have vetoes on the United Nations Security Council: Russia, United States, France,
right.
Britain, China, plus Germany. Those talks have not gone on for over a year now, so this will be a significant development, and as you said in the intro, it's sort of against the background of growing anxiety that Israel might try a preemptive strike against Iran's nuclear facilities and so forth.
I was listening to an interview with Jim Baker last night, former Secretary of State under Bush Sr. and others, and he suggested that Israel is not equipped to take out Iran.
I think that's true. In the past, Israel had bombed a site in Iraq, a nuclear site, and a few years ago it bombed one in Syria. But we're talking about a very, very different thing with Iran. Much more sophisticated sites, much more heavily defended. Iran has a very, very sophisticated modern anti-aircraft missile system. Israeli planes could not reach there and back and operate effectively without mid-air refueling. And where you're going to do that? You're going to do it over Saudi Arabia or over Iraq, whatever.
Sure.
So I don't think that's on the cards, quite honestly.
However, you do know that Israel knows that no matter who is in the White House, the United States has Israel's back.
Yep. Oh, I think that's true. Obama made that very clear, and he also made it very clear that he will not permit Iran to have a nuclear weapon. So he hasn't taken military action by the US off the table. But I think there's a lot coming out from the US intelligence services at the moment, and the main thought in the US seems to be that Iran actually shelved its active production or attempts to produce a nuclear weapon back in 2003. It is still trying to acquire the capacity to make a bomb. I think there's no doubt about that.
Right.
And we've made, in talks before, Fanny, you and I have made the distinction between the ability to make it and actually making it.
Sure.
And I think there's no doubt they're still working on the ability to be able to make a bomb.
So essentially, Tehran does not have a bomb.
No.
Has not decided to build one yet.
Right.
Agree. Is probably years away from having a deliverable nuclear warhead.
Yep.
Agree. So what is it really about?
Well,
all of this.
I am of the view that Israel is actually a secondary consideration in this whole thing. What we're really seeing, I think, is a tussle in the Middle East for authority between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Iran as the head of the Shia Muslim sect of Islam, Saudi Arabia as the head of the Sunni Muslim sect. But we're also, of course, now we've got Turkey intervening. So we've got a bit of a three-cornered tussle for authority in the Middle East now.
And what do you make of countries who say, and many do, that unless you meet our conditions, we will not talk to you?
Well, so far
no dialogue.
So far we haven't seen any conditions put on Iran resuming talks. They may well do that later. And I think that the most likely conditions that Iran would be put on resumption of talks would be an attempt to get sanctions eased.
Are sanctions working?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, they're beginning to affect their ability to manage international finances very seriously. So I think this is a strong impetus for Tehran to come to the table.
Sure. Not ever having worked in the area of foreign policy, I would suggest that even if you don't have conditions, if you talk tough, any country respects that. That's what Henry Kissinger used to say. Sure.
Now, one always has to have the caveat with Iran as well, that they've got a very long record of just stalling for time. And, they may just feel now's the time to start talks again, and then we can carry on in the background developing our abilities with nuclear weapons. So that's always a problem with Iran.
And what is the hurry, in the sense that, are they worried that they'll, is it called hardening? They harden the sites so that nobody can get at them, or...
Well, I think the major worry is that if Tehran clearly develops the ability to make nuclear weapons, then other people in the Middle East will want them as well, and particularly Saudi Arabia. And there's some indications that some of the other Arab states are already sort of working towards this. They're wanting their own peaceful nuclear programs and so forth.
What did Obama say yesterday, or not yesterday, but during this summit? He was talking with,
Medvedev,
with the Russian, and said, we have an election coming up in the United States, and I really can't talk too much about American missile defense systems until we get that over with.
Yeah.
Well, we knew that, but I think he was sort of caught off mic.
Yeah, this is interesting because I think one has to remember that Obama came to office promising a real revolution, in trying to diminish international nuclear arms. But of course, he got thrown off track by Iraq, by Afghanistan, and by the American economy. So I think approaching his second term, he's trying to get the nuclear issue back at the forefront of his foreign policy.
Sure, and as you know, you get elected in the United States because of economy, especially if you're not at war. Jonathan Manthorpe, our guest, he's a foreign correspondent and national affairs columnist. You can read him in the Vancouver Sun and other papers.
Oh, many other papers.
Syndicated. You are. We'll come back.